All right. Woo! Noah from here. It is the 9th of December and I am in Norway. I'm outside Bergen. Actually, I'm attending a grand premiere of a musical called The Nutcracker. I'm backstage. The original plan was for you and I to stand by the mystical fjords and in front of the dramatic mountains and nature. But it turns out it rains 300 days a year here. And one of those days was today. But we might as well do it here, backstage. You're here, I'm here, everybody's here, and I'm your personal coach. But we are not here to be nutcrackers and crack jokes and nuts. We are here to crack solutions, and we are here to crack knowledge with which you will be able to get whatever you want without violating the rights of others and help others acquire the same knowledge. So, but primarily today, we're here to talk about the number one, the determining factor that is the foundation of all success. If you master this one, I promise you, you will be successful in whatever you do. All successful people that have found the key, the secret, this is the secret by the way, they have found this secret and that enables them to produce consistent success, consistent results and improvement. And you will do too. And if you ever have been successful within an area, this is what you did right. But if you're sitting in a chair, driving your car right now, watching me, and you're like, no, I still have this area and I can't seem to make it happen. I can't seem to manage. What is wrong? This is what's wrong. And we're going to figure it out, and I'm going to tell you what's wrong and how you fix it. But first of all, we have to talk about progress. Why do we even want it? Why do we want to be successful? Why do we want to improve? Isn't that an important question to ask ourselves? And then we can take a look. In what season are we right now? It's winter season. And there is a holiday coming up, isn't it? It's December. Christmas. Christmas is knocking on the door. But I'm more interested in the holiday that happens after Christmas. New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve. There is something we like to do on New Year's Eve. Not the kissing. Not the kissing. That's another video. We like to make New Year's resolutions, don't we? Have you done them? I sure have in the past. But nowadays, people are they stop doing them because they're so dissatisfied because they don't manage to keep them. They make all these promises like, I will stop drinking, I will stop smoking, I will stop screwing around, I will stop working so much, and I will start spending more time with my kids, and I will start going to the gym, and I will stop eating those cookies, and I will stop eating like a pig. All those promises we are making. But you know what? The statistics show that by the 15th of January, those promises are worth nothing because they are all broken, shattered. They have not been achieved. So why do we keep on doing them? Isn't that the question? Why? It's like we associate New Year's Eve with a fresh start. We want something more. I don't know about you, but I like spending time in nature. Don't you? Looking at the bushes, the flowers, the plants, everything that grows, and trees. And when you're out there, you notice something. It's really clear to you. All those things have one thing in common. What is that? They're all growing. They are growing to their full potential. A tree doesn't say, hey, I'm only growing to my half potential. No, a tree just drives its roots as deep as it can. It produces every leaf and fruit as it can. I wonder if it's the same thing with us. Take a look at yourself. For example, maybe you're in a relationship. Let's say you're in a relationship. How would you feel if you don't discover anything new with your partner, with yourself? You're just like this. Nothing new at all. How would that make you feel? You're not developing, you're not progressing, you're not, not movement, How would that make you feel? Pretty lousy, right? And what if you was determining when you go to the gym. What if you were determined to lose weight and you go to the gym and then you gain weight? You know, you're going to the gym to lose weight and now you're gaining weight. How would that make you feel? Lousy. If you're wanting to build muscle, right? And now your muscles are starting to shrink. How would that make you feel? Lousy again. And what if you said to yourself, I am going to the supermarket and buy groceries. And you start walking and you walk even faster. But then you realize, hey, I'm not moving an inch here. I'm not moving 1 centimeter. Wouldn't that make you frustrated? So it all comes down to progress. We want progress in our lives. That's why we are making all those resolutions. We want to make a fresh start. We want to make those promises because we are hoping for our lives to, tap into that growth that we can find in nature. It's the same force inside of us. We want to grow. That's why we want to make those promises and promise ourselves to grow. But then again, if we fail, then the essential question comes down to what enables us to make progress? Those promises, what are they really? If we don't achieve them, aren't they just wishes? Aren't they just something we want? I would like to stop drinking. I would like to stop smoking that thing. Isn't it what it is? We tend to want a lot of stuff. But the truth is, we don't always get our wants, do we? Like a kid, he wants candy or she wants candy, and sometimes they get it, but sometimes they don't. But what do we get? We always get our musts. When you must something, when you have to, then is when you get it. For example, if you must have a car, if you have a car right now, do you have a car? If you have a car, if you must have a car, I'm sure you have one. If it's just a should, you don't if you don't have a car, having a car is not a must for you. It might be a should, it would be nice, but I don't mind taking the bus or riding my bike. But if it's a must, you have a car. But if you don't have a car, it's not a must for you. And your bills. If it's a must to pay your bills on time, guess what? You're pretty good at keeping that, right? But if it's not, if it's a should, I should pay the bills on time, then I'm sure you've been late. So it all comes down to musts and should. And we are experts on saying, I should stop doing that, I should start exercising, I should stop doing whatever we do, and we should start doing whatever we want to do. We should. It's like we're having a backpack and we just keep shoving all these shoulds. And finally we just become so fed up with ourselves and we're like, oh, it's so much that I should do and I'm so tired, so I don't need to do anything of it. Right? And that is not the life we want to live. So if we really want to make a change, if you really want to lose weight, if you really want to start your own company, if you really want to improve a skill that you have, become a great singer, become a great friend, have emotions, have happiness. If you really make it a must, you have to make it a must. And here comes the good stuff. When we skip the shoulds, we don't get that anyway. And we make it a must, like the air we breathe. I must breathe, and I must lose weight, and I must connect with my child. We'll find a way. We'll find a way. And when we come to that point where you're fed up with all of that and you say, I must change, I must improve in this area, then is when we come down to the number one, the determining factor that will determine if you will become successful or not and achieve that result or not. And that is, you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision. And I know that many of you are like, you flew all the way to Norway to tell me that I have to make a decision? Guess what? If you really know what a decision means, then you would understand. And maybe you do. So let me take it from the beginning. In order to understand what decision really means, I'm going to tell you a story. Let me tell you a story. Okay, so once upon a time, right, there is this warrior, this known warrior. He's a warrior. He's the great warrior of a small kingdom, right? And It's a beautiful place. But this beautiful place is consistently under attack from this other kingdom, a bigger kingdom. They come in, they rage, they violate, they abuse, they steal their harvests, they even steal their children. They take them as slaves, take their women as slaves, and some of the men too, of course. And this warrior is like, no, it's not supposed to be like this. You know, when they are not harassed, he's only worrying for the next time when they will appear, for the next time they will come around. But one day he's like, no, I'm not living my life like this. I had it. I'm not going to put up with this anymore. So he gathers all the whole kingdom, and he probably holds a fire speech like, hey, do you really want to be captives in your own kingdom? Do you want your freedom? And they were like, yes, heck yeah, we want freedom. So he gathers all the soldiers because he knows where the stronghold is of this enemy army. He knows it's an island a couple of days out at sea. So he gathers all of his army, all the soldiers, prepares the ships, and he heads out. He heads out into the sea. And when the guy who spots things, he spots the island, he's like, hey, there it is. You know, he steps up, this warrior person, this legend warrior, he steps up to his men and he says, guys, all the soldiers, maybe there were women also, probably, you know this. So he says, okay guys, let's conquer this island. That is what it says. He gathers the people, gathers the army, and he says, we're going to conquer this island. But in order to do so, you need to take your swords now, and you need to jump in the water and burn the boat. And the whole army goes, okay, I understand, conquer the island, take our swords, jump into the water, but I don't understand burn your boats part. He says, jump into the water, take your swords, and burn the boats. So they do it. He's their leader and they trust him, right? So when they jump into the water, start swimming and look back, the boats are going into flames. They reach the island. They swim into the island. Standing looking, the boats are all in flames, perishing in smoke and fire. Guess what? Now they only have two options. They can't swim back. You know, nobody can swim back. If they swim back, you know, days with boats is probably weeks swimming. You know, and sharks and whatever things are out there, you know. So they have two options. Either they conquer and win over the enemy. They conquer and defeat the enemy. Or they die by the sword of the enemy or by the sharks. So it's either dying or winning. You know why they burn the boats? Because when you burn your boats, there is no way back. What the warrior wanted to make clear is we're not going back to that painful place of being slaves. You know what? Benjamin Disraeli, look him up. He is a successful guy. You know, not only, you know, economically. It's up in here. But what he said is, human beings are placed, life has placed human beings under the governance of two sovereign forces. Life has placed us, you and I, under two sovereign forces, under the governance of two sovereign forces. Those forces are pain and pleasure. I'm going to explain it to you. Whatever we do in life, you and I, we do it in order to avoid pain and to gain pleasure. In order to avoid pain and gain pleasure. For example, you're hungry, pain. What do you want to do? Eat, pleasure. For example, you're tired, pain. What do you want to do? Sleep, pleasure. You are deeply in love with this person, but you can't kiss him, pain. The day when you do, pleasure, right? You're bored? Somebody invites you to a party. Do you stay bored or do you go to the party? You go to the party. Pain, pleasure. in everything we do. Then you might say, hey, Noah, hey, I work out a lot and I love the pain. You know what? It's because you associate the pain with a greater pleasure in the future. Sometimes some of us have learned to endure pain in order to get better pleasure. But what I'm talking about is pain where we stay. Pain of, eating a certain way, going into a heart attack. And talking about heart attacks, you probably have a grandfather or a grandmother who had a heart attack, or a mother or father, or yourself, I don't know, had a heart attack, right? And they survived. Had lung cancer and survived. You know what? That person, most people who are experiencing such a severe calamity or painful situation, they change. They change the way they eat. They stop smoking. My grandfather stopped smoking when he had his first heart attack. You know why? Because they associate the past with pain. If I keep on living like this, the present with pain, the heart attack I just had, and the future. If I keep on smoking, if I keep on eating like this, I will get another heart attack or another lung defect, So whenever we experience pain in the past, in the present, in the future, something just snaps inside of us. For example, the warrior, he said, we are experiencing pain right now. We have experienced pain in the past, and if we don't do anything right now, we will experience pain in the future. We have to do something. And he made a decision. And then we have to get back to the word decision. What does that really mean? And if you look at the word, the definition of the word, and the origin of the word, it comes from an old French word named, which is décision. I don't know if the pronunciation is right though. Decision, which has its origin in the Latin word, which is decadir or decadere. De means from. Cadere means to cut off. So decision really means to cut off from. Isn't that what the warrior did? He cut off any possibility to ever go back to that. If you want to lose weight, guess what you have to do? First of all, you have to recognize the pain that you will have in the future if you keep eating like you do. But when you do, when you experience, and when you have come to that point, because I'm sure you're there already, I want to improve this and I can't live like this anymore, or I have to learn that, or I have to start saving money, whatever it is. When you've come to that point, you have to make that decision where you cut off any other possibility to ever go back or to not act in consistency with that goal. You have to do it. You have to make that decision. And that brings me to another story. Because I had an old friend, a childhood friend. He came up to me. He said, I got a great job, Noah. I got a great life, a great girlfriend. My life is brilliant, except one thing. And he showed me his hand. And guess what? I looked at his nails and I was like, oh my, those are not even looking like nails. Because they were like crawling up on his fingers. He was biting his nails every day. Guess what? It was because he associated biting his nails with pleasure. Whenever he was stressed, he got back to his nails. He always, when the future was uncertain, he could get certainty right here. And whenever he argued with his girlfriend, he found somebody who didn't argue. His nails. When he was stressed, when he was bored, nails, pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. So I already knew that. But I was just like, okay, here we go again. Okay, so you really want to stop biting your nails, huh? He was like, Noah, listen. I'm a successful guy. He didn't put it like that, but that was really what he said. I'm a successful guy. But this right here is not success. I'm ashamed of this. I don't want to be like this. I want to become a great guy, a businessman, investor, a great investor. So I said to him, okay, if you really want to do this, he was like, I do. I was like, okay. Then I had to find out what was the most pleasurable thing he knew. So I asked him, what's the best thing you know in the world? What do you like the most? What do you do? What's your hobby? He was like, I like investing. I like saving money. That's what I really like to do. Invest and reinvest money and, all of that. I was like, okay, that's interesting. So you like saving money and like investments. What do you hate? I asked him. And he was like, I hate wasting money. And I hate seeing other people waste money. You know, seeing my girlfriend, you know, spending money on other things. Or, you know, I like for her to be happy, that's why. But just, you know, the thought of wasting money, that really tears me apart in here. So it's like, interesting. So, what I told him was, you want to stop biting your nails? This is what we do. Every time you bite your nails, you are going to have to pay me $500. $500. He was like, okay, why can't I just give it to my girlfriend? Why do I have to give it to you? And I was like, she will become happy. And when she's happy, happy wife, happy life. That's why. So you are going to give me the $500 and I'm going to throw them away. So indirectly, you are throwing your money away every time when you are biting your nails. And how is that for an investor? How is that for a saving? Is that who you want to be? He was like, no, it is not. And guess what? We met several months later, took a look at his nails. I took a look at his nails. Perfect. They were beautiful, beautiful nails. Well, a couple of months later, it turned out that he went into a darker period, or a lot of work, a lot of, you know, a little bit of stress here and there. And it all added up. So when we took a walk later that summer, we were sitting by a pier having a great talk. And then I had a look on his hands and I was like, hey, what happened to your nails, man? And they were all crawling up his fingers all over again. The same disgusting nails. And you could see his face. He was just like so ashamed. It was back to that old place again. You know why? Because he hadn't burned his boats. It also made me realize, what is the most painful thing that we can do to ourselves? It's not necessarily materialistic things. What I had done, I'd taken away materialistic things, money. But when I saw how ashamed he became, I knew the worst thing we can do to ourselves is to violate our own self-image, the person who we really truly believe we are. If we violate, if we abuse that, we'll feel so bad about ourselves. So I told him, hey, if you continue to do this, how good of an investor will you be in the future? I mean, you're professionally already, but how good? Will you be able to be a role model? First of all, to your kids. You can talk about self-discipline, you can talk about all those things, but if you can't even manage your nails, how good of an investor will you be? Will you be able to tell your customers or clients that they have to, you know, make a decision and invest right and you see the possibilities if you can't even control your nails? You can't be a role model for your kids. And he was like, yeah, he saw what I meant. And I was like, man, if you can't even control your nails, how can you be able to control when the economical climate, when the economical climate comes all crashing down? How will you manage that? He was like, yeah, that's right. And you could really see, you know, he was not crying, but you could really, he was just devastated. And I was like, close your eyes. Close your eyes. And I took him back. If you continue this behavior, what will that have for result? What result will it have for you in your social relationships, in your own, how will you view yourself? And you can just see 1 year from now, 5 years from now, where will you be? How will you view yourself? You know what? If you want to make a change in your life, you have to associate the place you're in with tremendous pain. Might sound bad, but that's how it really works. We have to become so dissatisfied with the place we are in, and we have to associate changing with tremendous amount of pleasure. And guess what? When you start that change, when you start losing those kilos, don't celebrate when you have lost 10 kilos or 50 pounds. Celebrate when you're making the small progress. Because if you start associating the travel, the journey with pleasure, when you're tapping yourself on the shoulder and say, you're awesome, look at what you're doing, you got to the gym, you might not have been that efficient or effective at the gym, but you were there, you're awesome. But when you see the pain of not changing and the pleasure, the amount of pleasure, the fruits, the sweet fruits of changing, guess what? Then you create a pull power. Because pushing, I have to lose 10 kilos, I have to go to the gym, it's exhausting. That's self-discipline. It doesn't work long term. But when you associate so much pleasure, something that just pulls you in that direction, guess I promise you it will work. So, lessons for today. Use the pain. See what consequences it will have if you stay in this pain, in this place. If you don't change, see what painful. See it inside of you. Hear it. Feel it inside of you. What effects will it have on your social relationship? On your emotional life? How will you feel about yourself? And economically? See it, feel it, hear it. Hear the pain, feel the pain, see it. And then paint the picture of what it will be if you manage to change. Who can you become for your friends, for your spouse, for your wife or husband, for your kids? What role model? Who can you help? Who can, all of that. You have to see it. And when you do, make a decision. How do we make a decision? You can follow my advice. He wrote a contract with me to give me $500, and I did it too. For me, it was, I had one habit in my life that I wanted to stop so bad. I put my apartment on the line. I was so ashamed of myself, and I was like, if I can't do this, I will never be able to be a coach. If I'm about to give people advice on how to stop bad habits and I can't stop this, who am I? So I told my uncle, that was an important person in my life, and I told him, if I can't stop this, you get my apartment. And you know what happened? Whenever I went back to that place to continue with that bad habit, it just popped out in my head, lose my apartment. And I just felt so, security and certainty was so, I valued that so much. So I couldn't lose that. So I just stopped doing this habit, that bad habit, in order for me to have the pleasure of that apartment and be able to enjoy and invite friends there. That was pleasure to me. And pain, my bad habit became pain. So I moved away from that and towards that. And you know what kicks in then? It becomes a habit. That bad habit becomes a memory that you can just put away. And when, the days goes by and you just see that pleasure happens, you become proud of yourself. And then something physical happens when it becomes a habit. When you start drinking coffee, it becomes a habit and suddenly you're addicted. Guess what? If you want to stop drinking coffee, I'm just taking coffee. It's not, if you like it, continue. But if you want to stop, make a decision. Write to 10 friends. You can write 10 friends and say, I will stop drinking coffee. And they will say, okay, all right, okay. And you say, dear friends, hereby I will stop drinking coffee. Mark my words. I promise you, this is my life on the line. I promise you to stop drinking coffee. Now 10 people you have promised. Guess what? Are you a liar? I guess you don't want to see yourself as a liar because that would be pretty painful. But keeping that promise, being a man and a woman of your word would be pretty pleasurable. So start using pain. Use pleasure instead of pain and pleasure using you. This was pleasure to him. He didn't think of it like that, but it was. We have to realize your bad habits, the place you don't want to be in, it's pleasure to you right now. And you have to change that. You have to see the consequences, associate with pain, and then you have to paint a pleasurable picture where you want to go. And then you have to make the decision. Put something on the line. Call a friend and say, this is what we're going to do. Put yourself on the line, your reputation, put your self-image on the line. This will happen if I don't do this. And when along that way, reward yourself. Reward yourself. Reward yourself with a movie. If you lose 1 kilo, if you lose a hecto, if you just lose a single quarter of a pound, Go to the movies. Say, Noah, you did good. Maya, Peter, Muhammad, I don't know what your name is. But reward yourself. Because when you do, you will associate that life, that live, instead of saying, oh, I will lose 10 kilos. That is pain. It will not last. You'll be another statistic that have failed before the 15th of January. Trust me. Pain. Create your bad habit with pain. Create a pleasurable picture of where you want to go and reward yourself all the way. Make the decision so you burn your boats, you make it impossible to ever go back to that, and then you will find a way. And then you're also going to have to find a strategy and find a person who have done this before, because then you have the map as well. But that's another movie. Thank you so much for taking your time. This is Noah, backstage. I hope I cracked some knowledge that would be helpful for you in the future. I'll see you next week. I see you Monday. Stay tuned. And remember, explore your potential and live to grow. That makes a life worth living. See you soon.